Hello, hello, Natalie Lucier here, founder of AccessAlly, and I am super excited to have with me today Shannon Mattern, who is the host of Pep Talks for Side Hustlers and the founder of WP+BFF, which we'll talk a little bit more about what that means in a minute. So welcome, Shannon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Okay. So talk to us a little bit about, what you do, kind of an overview, just so people, if they don't know you yet, can kind of get a feel for your business and what you do today.
Yeah, so I teach DIYers how to build their website with WordPress with a free training called the Free 5-Day Website Challenge. And I also mentor web designers to run profitable, sustainable, and scalable web design businesses.
I love that. So I know we're going to be talking about your journey a lot, but one question I had for you was, have you always considered yourself to be a techie person, or is that something that you kind of picked up along the way? How did you get into the WordPress and web design space?
I think I'm always been the kind of person that's like, oh, there's nothing I can't figure out how to do. So I'm very determined in that way. And my path in corporate kind of led me down that road. I got a degree in communications and marketing, and I went to work in the marketing department. And at the time in the early 2000s, back then, it was like there weren't many technical people in the marketing department. And that was like just starting to be a very important thing. So I was always the person that was like collabing with the IT department to make our initiatives happen. And that's kind of where the techie part of me really started to get developed. And I taught myself how to build databases, how to code, like all of the things that we needed to do to like execute these marketing tasks. And I think it was, I don't know, the early 2000s when I worked at a law firm in the marketing department, and one of the attorneys needed to set up a blog to be able to like communicate about this case that he was on to like I don't know, it was like super boring stuff, but I was like, I'll figure out how to do that. And that's like when I stumbled upon WordPress, and I was like, okay, wait, I just built this whole like website blog for this specific business purpose. And I literally also just concurrently like ran a project where we paid a firm $250,000 to build a website for our company. But I just did this for free. Like there's something here. And that's kind of like where it all kind of started for me.
That is such a good illustration of, hiring it out and then figuring out, oh, wait, we can actually do this too. I love that. So was that what started your, quest of starting to start your side hustle, or what was the impetus to be like, okay, yes, I do want to do something on the side. And maybe do you always want to start a business? I'm not sure, but I'd love to hear.
I was like born and raised to be an employee, right? Like that's my whole family employees. That's what you do. You go to college so you can get the good job. And, that exploration of learning how to solve business problems with WordPress was really like all I ever thought it was going to be until I think I was like 35 at the time. I'd probably been working for, at corporate for almost 15 years or more. And I was like sitting at my desk one day, just being like, I cannot do this for the rest of my life. Like there has to be more to life than this just day after day of the same thing. And I was like, I have this one skill that I know I could like sell to other people, which was building websites. And that's really kind of how it got started, out of this kind of like moment of like desperation or depression or quarter life crisis. I don't know what. And that's really where I was like, oh, I could build websites for people on the side. So I started doing that as a side hustle. I quickly realized like, wow, I don't really know how to actually handle customers. I just created like 25 more bosses for myself. This is not what I want to be doing. WordPress is so easy. I could just teach people how to do it themselves. And that's kind of how my free training was born.
I love that. And yeah, so what was the mindset required, because I know you talked about having several bosses and then switching to more of like, I'm going to teach people how to do that. So what was going on in your mind around like, okay, like I'm going to shift from doing it to teaching it? Because I think a lot of times that takes a little bit of a little jump too.
Yeah, I think that there was this whole like, who am I to teach somebody how to do this? I don't have any kind of certification. I'm completely self-taught. What if they realize that like I don't actually know what I'm talking about, like all that imposter syndrome. And I really had to just think, you know what? I'm not marketing to the people who know more than me. I'm marketing to the people who know less than me. And so that is really like the shift that I had to make, to have the courage to really go forward and say, hey, I can teach you this. I don't claim to be like the end all be all WordPress developer expert, but I can teach you how to do this. And once I embraced that mindset, then I was just like, okay, and now I've learned a little bit more, and I'll teach you that, and I've learned a little bit more, and I'll teach you that. So I really had to let go of thinking that I had to know everything to get started.
That is such brilliant advice. And I think we all go through that too, where it's like, wait, shouldn't I have like a lot more experience or a lot more degrees or something to kind of show before I hang my shingle and say, I'm going to teach people how to do these things. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And so how was the trajectory of the growth of teaching and kind of scaling? Because I know like that point where you decide, okay, how much is enough, and like what's the point that you should quit your job to do this full time, because there's the financial aspects, there's the time aspects too, because you can't grow if you don't have the time to grow it. So I'm sure you went through all of those points in time. So what was your decision making process for that?
So I personally felt I put this like constraint on myself, or I don't know, rule or goal or benchmark, was where I said, I want to replace my day job income at least 2 months before I actually make the leap to quit. And so it took me 3 years to do that. And knowing what I know now in hindsight, it could have happened a lot faster had I been more patient and more focused on like things that I knew that worked, instead of being distracted by lots of shiny objects and all of the things. But that was my initial goal. And so I did that through, my business was earning revenue through affiliate commissions through my free training. I was teaching some online courses, and I was also doing one-on-one client work again, because I kind of figured out like how to fix the broken parts of my web design business. And once I got those things working, I was like, oh my gosh, I did it. Like I replaced my day job income and was able to cover business expenses and taxes for it wasn't consecutive months. It was like 1 month I did it, the next month I didn't. And then the third month I did it. I was like, okay, it's time. It's time to put my notice in. Like I feel comfortable making this lateral move. And that was in January of 2018. And it's just been like amazing ever since.
I love that. And were there any mentors or things along the way that kind of helped you? Because I think that is something we don't always talk about, but that could be really helpful for people.
Well, you were one of my very first mentors. So I don't know if you remember this, but back it was 2015, I was like, how do I build an email list? And you were the first person I found. Your Facebook group was the first Facebook group I ever knew existed or joined. And that was one of the springboards of my business, and also just watching how you did business, which was very different than what I was seeing other people do. So you were instrumental in my journey. So thank you for that. Pat Flynn, Smart Passive Income, learned the affiliate marketing and doing that with the heart of a teacher. So that was instrumental. I've had so many mentors along the way. I would say Mariah Cause is one who I'm working with currently to just kind of like elevates to that next level. So mentorship has been a huge, huge piece of my success. And I have noticed that when I try to lone wolf it and figure it all out on my own, It's way harder and it's way slower. And when I've invested in mentorship in my business, like that has been always, always the game changer for me. Every time it's like a exponential level up for me.
Yes, and I can definitely say the same for sure. So it's great to hear that. And yeah, thank you for for the shout out. That's really cool. And so yeah, tell me a little bit because I know things have accelerated, like you said, since leaving your job and going full time. So you were a solopreneur for a while, and now you've hired other people on your team, and you've kind of stepped more into that CEO role. So how would you say again mindset shifts or anything else along the way that were necessary to go from solopreneur to then scaling size of your team a little bit more?
Oh yeah, I think that one of the biggest shifts was like going from like this isn't just about me and my financial security. I covered that. Like I got that covered when I quit my day job, and then it was shifting into okay, this money that I'm paying my team is not an expense that's like going away. It's an investment in me buying my time back, but also an investment in the growth of my business. So I had to really shift out of this like scarcity, self-protection place that was really like where I grew my business from. It was like, oh, I have to replace the security of a paycheck, make it consistent. That whole mindset shift was like, okay, like now I'm taken care of. What do I want? Like, why do I want to, like, I had these points, like, do I even want to grow? Because I'm fine. But the mission of what I wanted to do was like bigger than just me. And so that required lots of shifting and thinking about how I was spending the money that I was making, who I was hiring to help me, how much I'm paying them, all of those things. And so it really was the shift from like being really focused on my own personal financial security to the mission and spending money in service of the mission. And these investments are not necessarily going to like help me like pay myself more, which I do pay myself more because I'm worth it, but it's also to, be able to serve and support and help more people. And I think that that's like been the biggest shift from solopreneur to CEO. It wasn't like organizational or like any type of like business stuff. It was more about like, oh, this is bigger than me now.
I love that. Yeah. And one thing I know you've done a lot is you've been transparent throughout your journey on how much you're earning, how much you're investing or reinvesting on team and systems and all kinds of things. So, how would you say that has helped? Do you feel like doing it in public makes it scarier or maybe keeps you more accountable? Or how do you feel like sharing your income reports and all of that has affected things for you?
I think that it is very, very good for me to every month take that time to look at everything and reflect on all of it. And I wouldn't do it if I hadn't committed publicly to do it and publish it. I think that it would be like, oh yeah, I really need to look at my numbers and sit down and think about it. But me committing to doing that and publishing that has been massively helpful because it forces me to not be self-critical about the results and to look for the lessons so that I can like share those lessons, because it's like I write the income reports because I want my listeners to learn something from them and to shortcut their success and to not make the mistakes that I made or have the wins that I had, like follow in my footsteps when something worked. And so it forces me to like put a different lens on looking at my business when I could potentially be a little more self-critical sometimes than I would like to. And I wish I just would have had that, because at the time I saw a lot of people doing it, but people were making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it didn't feel relatable, even though it was very inspiring and aspirational. It didn't feel relatable. And I was like, I want to like lead the way for that person. So at times it has felt vulnerable, but I think the reason why I do it has kept me doing it for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's really interesting what you shared. I think too, when I was starting out, I saw some of those reports too, and I'd be like, man, how are they doing that? That seems so like far, right? So I think it's great to have that middle ground. And then of course, you're continuing to scale. So that's
Yeah.
cool too. So I know, you're obviously a technologist, you like technology. What are some of the things that you've learned along the way about choosing tech stacks, or all of those things that can help you scale and grow and maybe don't keep you stuck? Because I think that sometimes does happen for people too.
Oh, absolutely. So, full disclosure, AccessAlly user, early adopter, lover. It has grown with my business from 2016 to now, from before quitting my day job to now, and being a web designer and someone who has implemented almost every single platform out there. I think it's important to not be distracted by shiny objects. I think that's one thing. And to really think about um, looking at the where you want to go in your business too. Really thinking about, okay, here's what I have today, but here's the potential of where I want to be and what is going to grow with me, and where do I have the most control and flexibility to pivot when I need to pivot? Because I have pivoted so many times in my business, and technology has not been any kind of hindrance to me being able to make those changes. So I see a lot of, and I think like this is kind of back to like mindset, like having an investment mindset when you're evaluating tech, not trying to find the free solution, the cheapest solution, the bare minimum solution. I mean, this is like the thing that runs your business. It's revenue generating. It's not an expense. And so I think that I just see so many people get hung up on like trying to do stuff for free, which really causes them later on down the road when it does work out. So come from the mindset of, hey, what if it does work out? I'm going to build for it working out, build for pivoting and being flexible, instead of, what if it doesn't work out? I need to like do this the cheapest way possible. Oh, it did work out. And now I need to spend 6 months untying what I did and building and shifting. Like, it's just not worth it. Like, the opportunity cost is too high to not start out in the right place. So I see it a lot, and I see people get hung up in either not making a decision or trying to do things super cheap. And I'm like, if you would have just like started, you would have been so much farther along by now. So yeah, that's I have lots of opinions there, as you can tell.
I totally hear you. And yeah, and sometimes if you're not generating income yet, it can be hard to make that leap.
Yep.
So I understand certain situations it makes sense. But yeah, if you're serious about it and you really want to grow it, then yeah, investing upfront to really have the strong foundation. So, as an Access Ally client, what are some of the things that you like about it? What are some of the things maybe that you use the most, or things that kind of stand out for you?
I was thinking about this before this interview, and I was able to set up my free course because you have the functionality to offer a free course, and that setup. I was able to change out my CRM behind the scenes when I decided that the one that I had originally purchased was not working, and it was seamless for my end users. So that was amazing. As I have grown and evolved and offered more robust things to my students, every time I'm like, oh, I want to make this type of offer. It's like, oh, the functionality is there to offer, like to create one, checkout page and offer a payment plan or an annual payment, like right there on the page. And so every type of way I go to make an offer, it's there. I just recently started doing like in my training program for web designers, we started doing like one-on-one feedback on things that they submit to us, like their sales pages and stuff. And I was like, oh, AccessAlly has the functionality for me to create like a private portal to give them feedback on their unique things. So it's like every time I go to do something, the functionality is already there. So it's like you guys are plugged into the online course group coaching space and all the features are there. And the support is incredible. Like the knowledge base is the most, not only like robust knowledge base I've ever seen, but it's like written for normal people. Like you don't have to understand how the engine works to be able to read it. And even just responses from your tech team are amazing. So I know I could like go on and on, but everything is my favorite about AccessAlly.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I love that.
I'm like a power user.
Yeah, totally. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. So we wanted to switch gears a little bit and kind of go back to hiring, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
What were some of the key hires that you made, and what were some of the challenges too? Because you shared a little bit of the mindset stuff, but was there anything like when you onboarded your first person or any of that kind of stuff?
I think one of my key challenges in hiring was like waiting too long to do it, so then hiring out of desperation. And so I've made that mistake before. And it's not good for that person who's coming in that like you're already maxed out and they deserve to like come in to a situation and be like trained and onboarded and have time spent on learning everything. So I think that's one of the things that I am changing is hiring before it's on fire. I have goals, I have a plan to get there, and looking at like when does it make sense to bring this person on so that they can be trained. One of my best hires truly was like the right person to manage my inbox. I know that sounds crazy, but like I'm very protective of my communication, and I want, I guess you could say I'm a control freak, but I want things like I want people to be treated a certain way, and to find the right person to handle everything was like, I literally got 10 hours of my week back. And it was just so worth it. So, not just like organizing my inbox, but like responding to emails on my behalf. That was just game changing. I think that's like one of those leftover things from being an employee, right? Like you're used to managing your own email and I'm responsible for that. And then hiring my tech VA. I have a techie right hand who who is also like all about AccessAlly and like, oh, their latest update came out. Did you know that we can now change dates on payments, monthly payments? And I'm like, what? And we're like having this like private celebration behind the scenes. Like she loves it just as much as I do. So like she is just handling all this stuff that I used to handle. Because when you're techie, you can do everything and I shouldn't be doing everything. So having the right people to like let go of and give that stuff to has really been transformational for my business.
I can relate to that tech side of things too, where I'm like, oh, let me do it. And then
right.
Oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need that, like to be still connected to the things that run your business. So I've seen sometimes where people step away so far from the tech that, all of a sudden, if that person is sick or whatever, something happens and they need to log in and do things and they're like, oh, I don't know how this works anymore. So I think it's healthy a little bit, but not so much that you're the one doing everything. So yeah, I think that's great. Great feedback. Okay, great. So when it comes to the different types of content and marketing that you have out there, I know you have a podcast, you have your challenge, and you also mentioned shiny objects in the past. So what are some of the things that you've found have really worked for your business and for growing and expanding your reach versus things that maybe you shouldn't have focused on or didn't work out that well?
The number one best thing that has worked for me is not technical at all. It is relationships. It truly is building relationships with people who serve a similar audience, figuring out how I can serve and support them and the reciprocation of that. And it's not a quick strategy. It's not a, 10x in 30 days strategy, but it's one of those things. And I remember you saying, back in the 30-day list building challenge of like, you're planting all these seeds, like with your marketing, and they're going to bear fruit. And that is something that has continuously worked for me. And it's the most rewarding thing too. I don't want to sit by myself in a room and churn out Instagram graphics and captions. Like, it's just not where I want to be. And so I, back in the day, I started with a blog series that I called the Women to Watch series. And I just interviewed people who had DIY'd their website and were serving my ideal audience. And then I started the podcast, when I quit my day job, really just to kind of like document that transition. It was like very cathartic for me. And then I was like, oh, I should invite guests on this show. And it was just like, oh, I get to spend an hour with someone, learn all about their business. I share them with my audience. They share me with theirs. And then I figure out opportunities for us to collaborate beyond that based on those conversations. And that's, how I ran my business up until I think 3 months ago, I started running Facebook ads. I was like, okay, now I'm ready to try this, 7 years in and growing almost to $1 million total in revenue before even running Facebook ads. So, yeah.
I love that. And actually, I was going to ask you about relationships. So I'm glad you brought it up because that's something I've noticed that you do really well. And I think it's such a great approach because it's organic. It's that, human side of things, which I think we really care about too at AccessAlly is, the person behind the screen, right? It's not just about, like you said, hitting publish on a bunch of content and, hoping it lands somewhere, but just remembering that connection with that human on the other side. So that's really cool. And so in the beginning, I guess, because you've been at it for a while, you kind of get to know people and different audiences and kind of where everyone is. But if someone is like, okay, I don't have a ton of those relationships you're talking about, how do they get started, like finding their people or finding other collaborators or people to interview and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm always of the opinion, and this is something that Louisa Joe said to me. She's someone that I collaborated with. She's like, no audience is too small, because she had reached out to me and I was like looking at her Instagram and I was like, why would she want to be on my podcast? Like, I have nowhere near the audience that she does. And she had said, like, no audience is too small. And that is really where I think people could start, because they think, oh, I follow all these people who have these huge audiences, and why would they ever say yes to me? Well, one, they might, you never know, but also, no audience is too small. So if you see someone who's just starting out and they have 200 followers, or, you can kind of tell people's audiences a little bit by looking at their social media. Connect with them, reach out, see how you can support them, and look at people who are serving your audience in a different way. I learned, like, I was doing it organically. I didn't really realize what I was doing. And then I really learned it strategically from Brian Harris from Video Fruit / Growth Tools of like, oh, this is an actual strategy, right? And if done well and authentically, it can be really powerful. You can do it completely wrong and never make it past the inbox. But if you coming from a place of service and a place of really wanting to help that person's audience, and you're giving before you're asking, you can develop some of the like best relationships that and grow there, right? As that person who has 200 followers now, they could have 1,000 in a year, and there's another opportunity to collaborate. So, yeah.
I love that. Yeah, such a good mindset too for people, because we all want to scale and grow, but we all start at wherever we're starting from, right? So just being aware that there's no audience is too small. I think is such a great reminder for everyone.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so I kind of want to know, like, what's next for Shannon, and what are you thinking about? You mentioned you have a plan. How are you kind of seeing the next few months or few years, if you will?
Yeah. So I started out my business with, focusing on helping DIYers. And I was also doing freelance web design on the side, and really kind of honing and fixing all of the broken parts of the freelance web design business. Cause that was really, where there was a lot of opportunity for me to like make the money to replace my day job income. And I honed that process up into a point, and I was also starting to mentor web designers and teaching them all of the things that I learned. And so now I'm at this point at the end of 2021 and 2022 that I'm really going all in on the mentorship of the web designers. Like I will have the free 5-day website challenge until who knows when, because I love that. And I love being able to teach new business owners who aren't quite ready to hire a web designer yet, how to be super empowered with their tech. That is never going away, but there comes a time when it's time to hire a web designer. And I am on a mission to help web designers like totally value their skills, provide amazing service to clients, stop undercharging and over delivering, and really get paid well for what they do. And there's a lot of mindset stuff and a lot of business stuff and a lot of boundaries stuff and all of those things that I learned to get my web design business to that point, that I'm all in on my Web Designer Academy program and coaching those people. So that's been like a big pivot for me to kind of shift from teaching the DIYer and the business owner and serving them to like really going all in on this like almost side business that I've had going on that hasn't been like my full thing, but really has been something that I'm super passionate about, that's been like thriving, and it's easy and it's like fun. So that's where I'm at in 2022. And it means hiring more people to help me support that program. And we're growing like crazy. And it's super fun.
Oh, I love that focus. So I know you also have a directory of people that have gone through your training, which uses AccessAlly. Can you tell us a little bit about what that process is like? And if someone's curious about joining, maybe they're a developer and they would like to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So yeah, my directory uses AccessAlly, which again, people are like, hey, it'd be great if we had a directory. I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that for you. Like I never have to like find a third party tool to do any of these things, which is amazing. So when our students complete our program, then they have the opportunity to be listed in our yourdreamwebdesigner.com directory, where they get to list out their different skills, because we're platform agnostic in the Web Designer Academy. If you're Squarespace, if you're Webflow, WordPress, we will teach you how to run a web design business. So then everybody gets to list their skills, who they love to work with, a link to their website. And then we get to promote that directory and promote our amazing students. So if you're a designer or a developer and you are wanting that mentorship and support, you can just go to shannonmattern.com and click on for web designers at the top, and it'll give you all of the information on what we do and how we support our web designers.
That's awesome. And then on the flip side, for business owners who are looking to hire a web designer, what advice and tips do you have? Because I know I've been on both sides as well, because I did web design too. There's so much to consider, and like, even mindset stuff for hiring for your own website. So I'd love to hear your take on that too.
Yeah, I think that, there's a certain stage in your business where it's time to hire a web designer. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be new, like, or like make a certain amount of money or anything. It's like, you're really clear on who your customer is, like the customer journey, how you're going to serve them, because your designer needs to know those things in order to really create a website that's going to help you actually meet your business goals. So I think clarity on your business is critical. That doesn't mean that you're not going to pivot. That doesn't mean that things aren't going to change, which leads me to making sure that whoever's building your site for you is creating it in such a way that, like, unless you want to be beholden to them forever, but is creating it in such a way that you are empowered to pivot, and it's structured in a way that you're not like locked into, this one specific design or layout or thing forever, that because it's not a static thing. You as a business owner are going to be changing and evolving, and you don't and your web designer doesn't want to be doing content updates for you. So have them build it in a way that's really sustainable, that's going to grow with you. And then also I would say, invest in the right person. Like, when this is something that I'm so passionate about, it's like, when web designers are undercharging, they're over delivering, they're burnt out, and it is not a good situation when you're just gonna, like, people have problems. They're like, somebody ghosted me. It's like, you kind of get what you pay for. So when it's time, be willing to invest and find the right person, because that money is just going to come back to you. There's an opportunity cost in projects dragging on forever. There's an opportunity cost in hiring the wrong person. So take your time, be willing to invest in the right person, and have that clarity. And if you're not there yet, awesome. I'll help you DIY until you get there, right?
I love that advice. And we actually say that to AccessAlly clients too, because, sometimes you just need to get something out there, get some income, get some feedback from customers, and then, you want to tweak it in a certain direction or whatnot. And then you can do the big, nice, beautiful, like polished website and everything. So I think that's such great advice for people who are starting out or who have something that they DIY'd and they're like, oh, is it time? Should I pull a Band-Aid on this? And, hire someone. So thank you for sharing that advice. And one thing, it always comes up for me, so I want to share it. I feel like a lot of times people who have hired maybe other designers in the past or developers in the past and maybe gotten burnt, like you said, they got ghosted or whatnot. I try to say, just clean your own emotional baggage before you go into a new relationship with a new designer or developer, because bringing that stuff with you usually causes more issues with the new designer or developer that you're hiring. So that's just my little 2 cents that I've seen over the years. And I feel like happens a lot. So
Yeah, I would say too, like, forgive yourself for that decision too, if you're beating yourself up, because you made the best decision with the information that you had at the time, and you had your best interests in mind. And if you can forgive yourself and clean the slate, like, and find the right person, like, there are amazing designers out there that want to take care of you and want to create the thing that's going to help you live the life of your dreams. That's why I love mentoring web designers, because they really want their clients to succeed. Those people are out there, and you can find that person.
Love it. Oh, so good. All right, Shannon, any last words of advice or anything for someone who is going through a similar journey or kind of following in your footsteps maybe, and going from a side hustler, solopreneur, or now into that bigger CEO role that you want to share?
Yeah, if I could go back and give 2015 Shannon any advice, it would be to be patient. Be patient, because your impatience will actually slow you down. So my impatience had me chasing shiny objects, spending time and money on things that I did not need to be spending time and money on. I would tell myself to get a mentor, invest in a mentor way earlier on in the process. That trying to do everything on my own for free was also going to slow me down. And I would say, I would also say that, like, It's okay to let go of the things that you aren't passionate about to go all in on the things that you are passionate about. I made that mean failure to let go of something that like wasn't working. And then the obsession became get it working, not help the people get the results. And that's not a good place for either of us. So I would say it's okay to like let those things go. And just like trust yourself. Like when you invest in a tool like AccessAlly or mentorship or whatever, that's you going all in on you and your mission and your vision. And that's going to come back to you. It's going to come back to you in really unexpected ways, but also monetarily, So just trust yourself. And yeah, those are the things that I would tell anybody who's coming up behind me, or that I wish I could go get in a time machine and tell myself.
I love that. Thank you so much, Shannon. You have shared so much wisdom and so much, real world experience that I think is really going to help so many people. And if you're watching this and you're not subscribed yet to the Seamless Scaling series, make sure you do that. Go to accessally.com/seamless, because we have some really cool stuff coming your way soon, and you don't want to miss any of that. So I'm Natalie Lucier from AccessAlly here with Shannon Mattern, and you can go and find her at her website, shannonmattern.com. And you can obviously look up her podcast and her challenge and all the amazing things that she's doing. So thank you so much for being here today, Shannon. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.